Welcome to the Future of Us Bookcast, your gateway to insights shaping our AI future.
Today, we're diving into a really significant book for anyone navigating, well, the sheer complexity of the digital world. It's The Content Trap, a strategist's guide to digital change.
Right, and it's by Bharat Anand, who's a professor over at Harvard Business School. A really sharp thinker on this stuff.
Absolutely. And what makes this book, I think, so valuable is how it challenges a core assumption.
Like his.
The assumption that just creating better content is the key to success online. Anand calls this the content trap.
Yeah, I love that framing because content it's everywhere now, isn't it? It's almost a commodity.
Exactly. It's abundant, easy to copy, often free, and when supply just explodes like that, focusing only on making your product slightly better, well, it's often not enough to actually win or even survive.
So if it's not about just having the best article or the best video, what is the key then, according to Anand?
It boiled down to connections, understanding and crucially leveraging connections.
Okay, connections, like connections between.
Three main types. Connections between users, think network effects. Connections between different products, complements, and substitutes. And even connections inside your organization, how different functions work together.
Okay. So it's a much more systemic view. Less about the thing you make and more about the ecosystem around it.
Precisely. It's about stepping back, asking the right questions, being realistic about what you can't control, and sometimes, having the courage to go against the grain, not just chasing the latest trend.
And the book uses some fascinating examples to illustrate this, right? Like unexpected successes.
Definitely. We'll get into how this explains things like Shipstead success in classifieds beating Google in their own backyard, essentially, or why the New York Times paywall finally clicked after an earlier failure. These aren't obvious stories.
And the scale of the problem this addresses is just huge. And Ann talks about the democratization of media. Sounds good, right?
Sounds great. But the reality, clutter, an overwhelming flood of options.
The numbers are staggering. Like over 1 million non-traditional books a year, 900 TV channels.
And 72 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every single minute. It's impossible to keep up. You're just drowning in choice.
So this discussion, hopefully, will give you a kind of strategic map, a way to see through that noise by focusing on these underlying connections.
Let's start charting that map then. Part 1. Classifieds user connections.
Okay, so the goal here is to understand how digital success really hinges on these connections between users. Things like network effects and also smart pricing that links different groups of users together.
And the perfect place to start is Chapter 4, Shipstead. This gives us a great historical grounding in network effects.
Right, because newspapers, traditionally, their power wasn't just the news, it was the classified section.
Exactly. They had a natural monopoly there. And it was all about network effects. There's a key quote that sums it up.
Let's hear it.
They have a network effect in the sense that if you want to buy or sell something, you want to do that where everybody else buys and sells.
That makes perfect sense. Buyers go where the sellers are. Sellers go where the buyers are. It feeds itself.
It creates that virtuous circle. More ads mean more revenue. That lets them hire better journalists, which draws more readers.
Which then makes the classified section even more valuable to advertisers. It's a tight loop, hard to break into.
Exactly. So Shipstead, this big Scandinavian newspaper group, they got this. When the internet threatened the classifieds model, they didn't just focus on, say, making their online news better.
Which is what many others did, right? Try to replicate the print news online.
Yes, and often failed. Shipstead understood the real economic engine was the classifieds connection, so they tackled that head on.
And their solution was Finn in Norway, a separate digital operation.
Crucially, yes. And they made a really smart decision about staffing it. It wasn't run by journalists.
Oh, who then?
It was staffed by people who genuinely understood the businesses being advertised. Real estate agents, car dealers, headhunters, people who knew the transaction side.
That's a key functional connection right there, matching expertise to the task.
Absolutely. And internally, they actually encouraged their print divisions, even their popular tabloid VG, to compete with Finn.
That sounds risky. Internal competition.
It sounds risky, but it was clever. The parent company just wanted to win the digital classifieds market, regardless of which internal team did it. It forced Finn to be truly competitive, not held back by, old print ways of thinking.
And the results were pretty stunning, weren't they, in terms of market share?
Astonishing. Get this quote about their car listings.
Okay.
In cars, it even boasted 115% market share.
Wait, 115%? How is that even possible? That breaks math.
It sounds impossible, but it's the ultimate sign of network dominance. The platform was so strong, so essential in Norway.
That people from outside Norway started using it.
Exactly. People in Sweden, even Germany, were listing their cars on the Norwegian site Finn because that's where all the buyers were looking. The network's gravity pulled in the whole region.
Wow, so the connections became stronger than national borders in a way.
In that specific market, yes. And the value followed those connections. Another quote highlights this shift. By 2007, Finn was valued higher than its parent, Aftenposten.
So the digital platform, built purely on user connections, became more valuable than the entire legacy newspaper operation.
Completely eclipsed it. But there's a twist, a crucial lesson in the Schibsted story. What worked in Norway didn't work initially in Sweden.
Oh, what happened there? They tried the same playbook.
They tried. Be early, invest aggressively, but they were actually late in Sweden, and they underestimated a local startup called Blocket.
Block it. What did they do differently?
Schibsted went for the high-value business listings, B2C, houses, professional jobs, like Finn in Norway.
Okay.
Blocket focused on C2C, consumer to consumer.
Like people selling their old couch or used bikes.
Exactly. Everyday stuff, things people buy and sell frequently, and that frequency was the key.
Why? Because it generated more interactions, more visits.
Massive amounts of traffic. The book notes that selling small stuff frequently generates a lot of traffic and buzz, way more than selling a house once every few years.
Right. More reasons to keep coming back to the site.
That constant user activity, that high-frequency connection, allowed Blocket to build momentum and traffic incredibly quickly. Schibsted's B2C effort couldn't keep up.
So Schibsted had to.
They ended up having to buy Blocket, and for more than double the price they had refused earlier.
Ouch. A costly lesson.
A very costly lesson. It showed that the most powerful connection play in that context was enabling users to connect directly with each other, frictionlessly. That beat the traditional curated business listing model.
That focus on user-to-user connection is a great bridge to the next chapter.
It is. Let's move to Chapter 5, the New York Times paywall. Here, the focus shifts from pure network effects to how you price these user connections effectively.
Yeah, this is a great story because the Times failed with a paywall back in 2006, right? Times Select.
They did. It was widely seen as a misstep. But then, their 2013 paywall launch was undeniably a success. It changed the game.
So what changed? Was the content suddenly way better in 2013?
Not fundamentally. The content was always high quality. The change was in understanding and pricing the connections between their different user groups.
Okay, so who were these groups?
You had your loyal print subscribers who were hugely valuable. You had digital-only readers. Some read maybe 5 articles a month. Others read 50. You had casual readers clicking links from social media. And, of course, advertisers.
A complex web. How did they manage that with pricing?
The absolute key decision, and it was apparently quite debated internally, was bundling.
Bundling print and digital.
Specifically, giving existing print subscribers free, unlimited digital access. That wasn't the initial plan.
Really? What was?
The initial thoughts were more around metering everyone digitally, but they realized that charging print subscribers extra for digital could alienate their most loyal, highest-paying base. They saw the connection. Digital pricing affects print retention.
So protecting the print base was paramount.
It was critical. The bundling strategy acknowledged that connection. The book uses a great analogy from software.
Like Microsoft Office.
Exactly. Selling Word and Excel separately versus selling them bundled as Office. Bundling lets you capture value from customers with different preferences. Some might pay a lot for Word but little for Excel, and vice versa. The bundle captures more total value across the board.
So the Times bundled, say, the news junkies with the culture vultures, people who valued different parts of the paper.
Precisely. The 2006 mistake, the trap, was trying to price specific pieces of content. The 2013 success came from pricing the access, the relationship, managing those connections across all the different user types without breaking the valuable ones.
Okay, that makes sense. Pricing the relationship, not just the article. What about pricing the channels themselves, like cable TV?
Ah, yes. That takes us right into Chapter 6. Television, connecting streams, and the enduring puzzle of the cable bundle.
The bundle. Everyone seems to hate it. Everyone wants a la carte channels. Yet it persists.
Why? Well, the logic of a la carte seems appealing, right?
Like,
I only watch 5 channels. Why pay for 200? People think they'd save money.
yeah, sounds reasonable.
But the book argues that's flawed thinking because of the pricing connections. Think about a channel with a super loyal but niche audience, like, say, ESPN or the Food Network.
Okay.
If they were sold standalone, a la carte. Who would buy them? Only their biggest fans. The cable company loses the revenue from all the casual viewers who currently subsidize those channels within the bundle.
Ah, so the price for just ESPN or Food Network on its own would have to go way up.
Exactly. To make the same amount of money from a smaller subscriber base, the price per subscriber has to skyrocket. The book estimates maybe $10 or more instead of the few bucks they effectively cost inside the bundle.
So the bundle, counterintuitively, actually keeps the price down for people who watch a variety of channels.
It smooths the prices across everyone's different tastes. It prices the connections correctly, giving you access to a lot more potential content for a relatively low extra cost per channel. It's economically quite efficient, even if it feels frustrating.
This leads to that interesting idea about cable companies, the dumb pipe paradox.
Yes. The common wisdom for years was that cable companies were doomed to become mere dumb pipes, just providing connectivity like the water company, and that this was like the worst possible outcome, dying old media dinosaurs.
Sounds pretty bad, yeah.
But the analysis and insights, particularly from analyst Craig Moffett, really pushes back. Moffat's point was crucial.
What was it?
He said, "For 10 years, I had tried to explain that cable companies are not media companies. They are in the business of managing access to the home."
That's a huge distinction. Their business isn't the content flowing through the pipe. It's the pipe itself, managing access.
Exactly. And managing that infrastructure, that functional connection to the home, is actually a pretty stable, profitable business. It's not volatile like hit-driven media content.
So the question Moffat raised wasn't if they'd become pipes, but if the economics were really as bad as the dumb label suggested.
Right. And the analysis suggested maybe not. Maybe being the essential infrastructure provider is actually a pretty good place to be. It challenges that whole narrative.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to another type of connection. Chapter 7, crowds. What's the trap when it comes to crowdsourcing?
The trap is thinking that just opening the doors, "Hey, everyone, contribute," will magically lead to great results.
Just getting lots of input isn't the answer.
Not necessarily. Success depends on optimizing the connections within that crowd process. How contributions are selected, how they're improved, how they're shared. It's about the system, not just the volume.
Is there a good example of this?
The NASA medical kit story is fantastic. NASA needed a super efficient way to pack medical kits for space missions, really complex constraints on weight and volume.
Right, tricky problem.
They put the problem out on a crowdsourcing platform, Topcoder, and the results, they were blown away.
How so?
The best algorithm submitted by the crowd significantly outperformed NASA's own internal methods. And they solved the packing problem in like 30 seconds compared to 3 hours for NASA's team.
Wow. 30 seconds versus 3 hours?
Yeah. A NASA exec is quoted saying, "To put it very bluntly, we were blown away with the results." It showed the power of tapping into diverse, often non-expert perspectives connected through a platform designed to find the best solutions.
So the platform connection was key. It wasn't just random suggestions.
Exactly. And this also explains Wikipedia's dominance. It wasn't the first online encyclopedia.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the book mentions 7 others came before it. None got close.
Why did Wikipedia succeed where others failed?
It wasn't just that anyone could contribute. It was that the system allowed contributions to be easily improved by others. And it had mechanisms to quickly flag and fix errors or vandalism. It optimized those positive feedback connections within the crowd.
It's the connections again. The ability to build on each other's work.
What? Precisely. And you see this dynamic with news aggregators too, like the early Huffington Post or BuzzFeed. Their success wasn't initially about groundbreaking original content.
What was it about then?
It was about sharing. They were masters at packaging and distributing content often aggregated from elsewhere in ways that capitalized on the social connections of platforms like Facebook and Twitter.
They understood how information flowed online.
Totally. There's a quote that nails this shift. "News used to bring people to the thing. Now you have to find ways to share the content." The power moved from just having the content to optimizing its journey through user networks.
Okay, so that wraps up part I on user connections. Let's quickly summarize the main takeaways.
Sure. The big picture is that digital markets are fundamentally shaped by these user connections, both direct and indirect. Mastering these dynamics is key.
So the key points are?
First, network effects often prioritize market share and getting there early, sometimes even over having a technically better product. Think VHS versus Betamax, or how Craigslist dominated early online classifieds.
Okay. Second,
Second, Success often involves pricing the connections between users, not just the content. The NYT paywall, the cable bundle, they manage different user segments through clever pricing structures.
Got it. Third.
Third, these user connections can be strategically created. Platforms like Amazon Marketplace or the Facebook platform didn't just observe connections, they built environments for them.
Right, enabling others to connect. And lastly,
And fourth, crowdsourcing works best when the system optimizes selection, improvement, and sharing, not just when it maximizes the raw number of contributions. Think Wikipedia's editing model.
excellent summary. Now let's move from users connecting with users to products connecting with products.
Right, into part two, Concert's product connections.
And the objective here, as I understand it, is to explore how value shifts between complementary products and how understanding this is vital for strategy.
Exactly. Complements are products where demand for one goes up when the price of the other goes down, and recognizing these relationships, even expanding into them, can be crucial.
Let's start with Chapter 12, Music. This seems like the classic example of digital disruption.
It really is. The paradox is stark. Recorded music sales absolutely plummeted thanks to piracy and file sharing.
Yeah, the industry was decimated.
Yet for top artists, their overall income actually increased. How does that work?
Seems completely backwards. More piracy, more income.
It's all about the reversal of compliments. Think about CDs and concerts. They're compliments.
Okay, how so?
Before the internet blew things up, the CD, the recorded music, was the expensive main product. Concerts were relatively cheaper, often seen as promotion for the CD sales. The concert was the cheap complement, advertising the expensive core product.
Right, tours were often loss leaders to sell albums.
But then digital file sharing arrives. Suddenly, recorded music is effectively free, or very cheap. It becomes abundant.
Okay.
So the relationship flips. Now, the free music becomes the advertisement, the cheap complement for the live concert experience, which becomes the scarce, high-value product.
Ah, so the value shifted from the recording to the live performance.
Massively. And the book points out something crucial about why artists weren't maybe as devastated by falling CD sales as the labels were. There's a quote.
Let's hear it.
The real reason why artists didn't appear to care about CD declines was that they had never made much money off CDs anyway.
Really? Where did their money come from then?
For top artists, historically, something like 70% of their income came from touring, merchandise, live performance, only maybe 10% from the actual CD sales. The value capture was always primarily in the complement the live experience.
So file sharing just amplified that existing dynamic.
And amplified it dramatically. This led to what the book calls the Bowie effect, named after analysis by economist Alan Kruger. Concert ticket prices started soaring.
Right, tickets got really expensive. Was that just inflation?
Kruger showed it wasn't inflation or production costs or even just stars getting more popular. It was a structural shift caused by the complementary relationship reversing. Recorded music got cheap, so demand for the live experience went through the roof, and artists could capture that value through much higher ticket prices.
Fascinating. The value flows to where the scarcity is.
Exactly. The strategic lesson is huge. If your core product's price creators, look immediately to its complement. That's likely where the value is migrating. You need to anticipate that.
This idea of complements seems central to platform strategy too. Which brings us to Chapter 13, Apple and complements.
Yes, this chapter shows how even tech giants need to master the complement game. Look at the early e-reader market. Amazon's Kindle versus Sony's Library.
Sony was first, right? And cheaper.
Sony was first, had similar features, lower price point. By conventional logic, Sony should have won, but Kindle crushed it. Why?
What was Kindle's edge?
The complement. Wireless connectivity. Amazon built in WhisperNet, allowing you to browse and buy books seamlessly, anywhere, anytime, right from the device.
Ah, it wasn't just about reading books. It was about getting books easily.
Precisely. Jeff Bezos nailed it when he said, this isn't a device, it's a service. The value wasn't just the hardware, it was the connected ecosystem, the service complement.
Apple faced a similar dynamic with the iPhone, didn't they? Initially, it was all about the hardware.
It was. Launched at a high price, very focused on the device itself, kind of like their closed Mac strategy initially.
But then they realized.
Consumer research showed people weren't spending most of their time making calls. They were spending over half their time using apps. The apps were the key complement driving engagement.
So Apple pivoted.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
They dropped the price, and crucially, in 2008, they launched the App Store. They opened the platform, embraced the complements, and moved away from that closed model. That decision fueled the iPhone's explosion.
And you see the opposite happen with BlackBerry, right? They stayed closed.
It did. While Google with Android went wide open, encouraging app development, letting lots of hardware makers compete, driving prices down, the result,
Android took over the market.
completely. By 2013, Android had something like 75% market share. It's a stark lesson in the power of embracing complements and platform openness versus staying closed.
The book has a really sharp takeaway here, something like, don't just ask what your core business is.
But know when you're someone else's complement. Because if you are the complement, you might actually benefit when the core product struggles. And if you have the core product, you might need to give away the complement to prop up your main business. It forces you to think relationally.
Okay, so we've seen complements. What about connections driven purely by how people behave?
That's chapter 16. Spillovers. These are product connections created by customer habits, inertia, or taste.
Like the lead-in effect in TV. Watching one show makes you more likely to watch the next one on the same channel.
Exactly. Viewer inertia. Once you're tuned in, you tend to stick around unless given a strong reason to switch. This has huge implications for how networks schedule shows.
Is there a big example of this spillover effect?
The KBC effect in India is a classic. Star India launched Kaun Banega Crorepati, their version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Massive, massive hit.
Okay, so the show itself did well.
It did incredibly well. But the real magic, the spillover, was what happened to the rest of the channel's schedule.
What happened?
The ratings for the shows before and after KBC jumped significantly, even shows that hadn't changed at all. The hit show spilled over its audience onto the adjacent time slots.
So the value wasn't just in the hit show itself.
A huge part of the value was in its ability to lift the entire lineup. The Star CEO at the time said something like, KBC worked, but what really worked wonders was what we were able to do on the back of it. They strategically built the schedule around the hit to capture that behavioral spillover.
This must be why networks pay such crazy money for live sports, right?
Yeah.
Like the NFL.
Absolutely. It's not just about the ad revenue during the game itself, although that's significant. It's the massive, reliable audience that then spills over into the Sunday night lineup, like 60 Minutes or into the late news. Live must-see TV is one of the few things relatively immune to fragmentation because of that strong spillover effect.
Can spillovers work backwards?
Interestingly, yes. The book calls it backward spillovers. The prime example is Dan Brown.
The Da Vinci Code author.
Right. Before the Da Vinci Code was a global phenomenon, he had published other novels like Angels and Demons, which sold okay, but modestly.
Okay.
After Da Vinci Code hit #1 and stayed there, his publishers re-released those earlier books, and they became massive bestsellers too. The success of the new books spilled backward onto his older work.
Wow. So a rising tide lifted his previous boats.
Exactly. And we even saw a fascinating digital-to-print spillover with 50 Shades of Grey.
How did that work? It started as an ebook, right?
It had some initial digital success, yes. But the publisher, Anne Massett, made a counterintuitive bet on print. Her thinking was it's easier to be seen with a print book. Print creates visibility, social proof.
So print acted as advertising for the digital version.
In a way, yes. The print release created a huge buzz, much more public awareness, which then drove sales across all formats, including digital, through the roof. It showed that print can still be a powerful complement to digital discovery, not just a substitute.
Okay, let's sum up part 2 on product connections.
The core idea is that value is fluid. It flows between complementary products. Strategy means looking beyond your core product, anticipating these shifts, and sometimes leveraging complements, maybe even giving them away to capture value elsewhere.
So the key takeaways here would be
1. The value proposition can completely reverse. Free music drives expensive concerts. An e-reader's value is in the service, not the device.
Got it.
2. Success often requires expanding into complements, even if it seems like defocusing. Think Apple embracing the App Store.
Makes sense. 3.
3. Spillovers, those behavioral connections, mean a single hit can lift your entire portfolio. Capturing that spillover is key.
And finally,
4. Whether products are complements or substitutes isn't fixed. It's often a managerial choice. Think about decisions to bundle or unbundle.
excellent. So we've covered user connections and product connections. Now let's look inside the organization.
Right, into part 3, context functional connections. This is about how strategy is really about building a unique, tightly linked system of activities.
And the objective is to see how winning strategies create these interconnected systems that are really hard for competitors to copy, even if they can see all the pieces.
Exactly. We start with chapter 22, From atoms to bits. This references Nicholas Negroponte's famous distinction.
Atoms being physical things, bits being digital information.
Right. Bits are easy to copy, move instantly. Atoms are tangible DVDs, warehouses, delivery trucks. Negroponte argued the future was all bits.
But that wasn't the whole story, was it? Especially for early internet giants.
Not at all. Think about early Amazon or Netflix. Their initial powerful advantage wasn't in the digital realm, the bits. It was in mastering the world of atoms.
Like Amazon's warehouses and logistics, or Netflix's DVD distribution centers.
Precisely. Building those massive, efficient physical infrastructures was incredibly complex and expensive. That complexity in the atoms world created their differentiation. It was hard to copy.
Which highlights the value capture problem with bits, right?
Exactly. Moving bits around can create huge value and reach, but because it's relatively easy for anyone to do low barriers to entry, it's much harder for any single company to capture a large slice of that value long term.
Whereas moving atoms, being complex, offers more chances to build a defensible advantage through those operational connections.
Right. More complexity often means more opportunities for unique, reinforcing connections. Of course, Netflix famously made the transition.
From atoms DVDs to bits streaming.
Yes, but that required building a completely different set of functional connections: content licensing, production, massive server infrastructure, recommendation algorithms. Their original atom-moving advantage became less relevant.
This idea of hard-to-copy systems leads directly into Chapter 24, Dare to Not Mimic.
This is really the heart of the strategic argument in this section. Sustainable advantage doesn't come from just being better operationally, running faster just to stay in the same place. It comes from being different in a way that's systemically interconnected.
And the classic example here is Walmart.
Walmart's strategy looks simple on the surface. Low
Yeah.
prices, stores in rural areas. Easy to see.
But incredibly hard to copy effectively. Why?
Because those simple choices were deeply interlinked with complex internal systems' functional connections. For example, they gave store managers significant pricing autonomy.
Okay.
But that only worked because Walmart had invested billions in cutting-edge IT systems that gave those managers real-time data on inventory, sales, costs for every single item. The autonomy depended on the information connections.
And the rural locations.
That choice only made economic sense because of their unique cluster strategy for distribution centers. They built huge, efficient regional warehouses that could profitably serve a cluster of relatively nearby rural stores. Trying to put one store in a small town without that specific distribution connection would have been a disaster.
So you couldn't just copy one piece like the low prices without copying the whole interconnected system.
Exactly. Michael Porter's quote, cited in the book, captures it perfectly. It is harder for a rival to match an array of interlocked activities than it is merely to imitate a particular Salesforce approach, match a process technology, or replicate a set of product features. It's the system that's the advantage.
The book also uses the brokerage firm Edward Jones as an example.
A brilliant example of strategy as deliberate trade-offs. Their success is built on what they choose not to do.
Like what?
They have clear, simple rules. The individual investor is our only customer. Offices are staffed by one financial advisor and one assistant. We encourage face-to-face relationships.
So they actively avoid institutional clients or complex online trading platforms.
Completely. They focus laser-like on conservative, long-term individual investors served through a network of small local offices. It's a deliberately constrained model.
And that creates defensibility.
Hugely. An executive is quoted explaining it. The reason for Edward Jones's advantage was not that it had somehow figured out a way to overcome the trade-offs, but that it deliberately made them. By choosing not to serve everyone, they built an internal system, functional connections perfectly optimized for their target niche. A big rival, trying to serve all market segments, simply cannot replicate that focused system without breaking their own model.
They dared to not mimic the broad-based approach.
They dared to not mimic. That's the essence of building these strong functional connections.
Okay, so part 3 is about building these unique, hard-to-copy internal systems. Let's recap the takeaways.
The main theme is that strategy is about the coherence of the whole system.
Key points being:
First, moving from atoms to bits reduces costs but makes value capture harder due to lower barriers. Early digital success often relied on mastering complex atom-based operations. Second, real competitive advantage comes from functional connections activities that reinforce each other, making the whole system tough to imitate piece by piece.
Got it. Third,
Third, successful firms dare to not mimic by making clear strategic trade-offs that create incompatibility with how rivals operate. Think Edward Jones.
Makes sense. And finally,
And fourth, these functional connections are context-dependent. What works in one market might fail if you just lift and shift it without the supporting ecosystem. Walmart's international struggles illustrate this.
excellent. Now for the final part, applying this connection mindset more broadly.
Yes, part 4. Everyone's a media company. This looks at advertising, strategy process, even education through the lens of connections, contrasting product-centric versus user-centric views.
Let's start with Chapter 25. Advertising the promise and debates. Digital advertising had all these grand predictions early on, many of which didn't pan out right.
Totally wrong in many cases. Banner ads were supposed to die. They're still huge.
Wow.
Click-through rates were supposed to matter most. They're actually abysmal, like 0.1%. Ad skipping on TV was supposed to kill broadcast revenue. It really hasn't.
So why were the predictions so off?
The book argues it's because they started from a flawed, product-centered assumption about advertising.
Which is?
That advertising is fundamentally an irritant, something you push at users, trying to persuade or even brainwash them. The goal is interruption and bombardment.
But maybe that's not how effective advertising always works.
Exactly. Consider the eBay paid search experiment conducted by economist Tom Tadelis. This was a rigorous study.
What did they do?
eBay systematically turned off its paid search ads on Google, both for its own brand terms, like eBay shoes, and for generic terms in certain markets, and compared the results to markets where ads stayed on.
And the results.
Quite shocking. For branded searches, turning off the ads had almost no impact on traffic. People just found eBay through organic search or direct visits instead. The ad spend was essentially wasted.
Wow. But what about frequent eBay shoppers?
Here's the killer finding. For people who were already regular eBay users, the paid search ads actually had a negative return on investment.
Negative? How?
Because those users were going to come to eBay anyway. If they clicked the paid ad instead of using a free link, it just cost eBay money for traffic they would have gotten for free. The book quotes the study saying the ROI was close to a negative 100%.
So they were paying Google to acquire customers they already had.
Precisely. This forces that mindset shift away from the product-centered view, ads persuade, irritate, towards a user-centered view. Ads inform, partner, respect user intent.
Are there examples of this user-centered approach working well?
Chapter 26, Reimagining Advertising, gives some great ones. Patagonia is the standout.
With their Don't Buy This Jacket campaign, that seemed crazy.
From a purely product-centered view, yes. Telling people not to buy your stuff, insane.
But it worked, didn't it?
Hugely. It generated massive positive press, earned media. And counterintuitively, it actually boosted sales of the items they were promoting alongside that message.
Why?
Because it was authentic. It aligned perfectly with their customers' values. Environmentalism, anti-consumerism. It treated users as intelligent partners, not just targets to be sold to. That user-centered respect built huge brand loyalty.
We also see compliments playing a role in the ad world itself now, right?
Absolutely. Think about Google or Facebook. They're not just selling ad space anymore. They're increasingly offering creative services, consulting, analytics tools, often for free or cheap.
Why would they give that away?
It's the compliment strategy again. To sell a product, give away the compliment for free. The expensive product they sell is the media placement, the eyeballs. The compliment is the creative service or the data tool that helps advertisers use that media space effectively.
So they give away the lower value service to lock in the high value media spend.
Exactly. It's actually similar to what local newspapers did for decades, designing ads for the local hardware store for free, just to make sure the store bought the ad space in the paper.
This user-centered versus product-centered tension also fuels the debate around native advertising, doesn't it?
It's central to it. The product-centered view sees native ads, sponsored content that looks like editorial, as inherently deceptive, trying to trick the reader.
Whereas the user-centered view
Focuses on whether the native content actually provides value to the user. Can you integrate advertising, design, and technology in a way that's transparent, clearly labeled, but also genuinely useful or interesting to the reader, improving their experience rather than just interrupting it? It's a high bar, but that's the user-centered goal.
Okay, moving beyond advertising specifically, how does this connection mindset apply to the overall strategic process?
Chapter 29. From Strategy to Launch argues you have to start differently. Don't start by analyzing your own product.
What should you start with instead?
Start with a clear view of how your customers' behavior is changing. How are they finding information? How are they using products? How are they making purchase decisions? The quote from David Rashbass, formerly of The Economist and Reuters, sums it up.
Let's hear it.
If you're in media, don't start by understanding what you offer to readers. Start with a view of how people are finding out about news, how they're using news, and how they're buying news.
User behavior first, product second.
Exactly. This user-first view drove Star India's strategy when they launched their streaming service, Hotstar. They didn't just copy Western models.
How was their approach different for the Indian market?
They realized India was overwhelmingly mobile first. Forget complex websites. The phone was the key platform.
So they optimized for mobile.
Deeply. They focused on crucial functional connections tailored to the Indian context, like optimizing video streams to work reliably on incredibly varied bandwidths from super slow 64 kilobps connections up to broadband, and designing for the widest array of different screen sizes in the world.
That's a context-specific functional connection.
Absolutely. And they understood the pricing connection differently, too. Even free content wasn't truly free because users paid variable data charges on mobile.
So the data cost was the complement that users factored into the value of the content.
Right. Hotstar succeeded by delivering a reliable, bandwidth-optimized, data cost-aware experience with interactive features built around that mobile context. It wasn't just about the shows, it was the whole connected experience.
Finally, this connection thinking even applies to education, based on the Harvard Business School example.
Yes. Chapter 28, creating HBX's online learning initiative, they made a crucial choice early on.
Which was?
To go digital first. They explicitly rejected just trying to replicate the on-campus classroom online, the typical flipped classroom model. They felt that would be a poor imitation, irrelevant to the online learner's context.
So what did they focus on instead?
They focused ruthlessly on creating a high-quality experience for a smaller, selective group, aiming for high completion rates. This was the opposite of the typical MOOC model, massive open online courses, which chased huge registration numbers but had tiny completion rates.
Quality over quantity. And what became the most valuable part of the HBX experience?
According to the participants, the connections. The diversity of the cohort, you had Navy captains learning alongside doctors and lawyers, and the platform itself, which was designed to force interaction, peer feedback, and collaboration.
So the content was important, but the connections between the learners were the unique value proposition.
Exactly. An early participant said it perfectly. The diversity of this group is, without a doubt, its most valuable asset. The different perspectives each student brings is what makes HBX truly unique. The strategy was deliberately about manufacturing valuable connections, not just broadcasting lectures.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our exploration. Let's wrap up with the book's core arguments.
The central warning is the content trap. Don't get so obsessed with just making better content that you ignore the more powerful strategic levers.
And those levers are?
Mastering the connections between users, networks, communities, between products, complements, bundles, and within your organization, functional integration, strategy as a system.
And success often requires doing things that seem counterintuitive.
Definitely. Like giving away content to sell a complement, or deliberately not serving certain customers to build a stronger focus, or expanding into related areas instead of just focusing narrowly on the core.
So let's list the final key takeaways from the content trap.
First, create to connect. Build platforms and experiences where users can link up, share, contribute, exploit network effects. Think Shipstead's C2C success or optimized crowdsourcing.
Second,
Expand to preserve. Understand complements. Be willing to strategically move into adjacent product spaces, even if it means lowering the price of your original core product to capture value where it's migrating. Think music, Apple's App Store. Dare to not mimic. Build unique, tightly integrated systems of activities based on deliberate trade-offs. Make your strategy hard to copy because the pieces only work together in your specific context. Think Walmart's logistics, Edward Jones's focus.
and lastly,
Mindset matters. Shift from being product-centered, pushing things at users, to being user-centered, partnering with users, informing them, respecting their context. This applies everywhere, but especially in advertising.
that's a fantastic summary. Any final thought this leaves us with?
I think the most provocative idea is that this isn't a static playbook. It's a way of thinking that needs constant updating. You see companies adapting these ideas all the time. Look at the Washington Post under Bezos becoming more of a tech platform, or the Times buying complementary content like Wirecutter or Ordle. Even Amazon and Apple are arguably using content bits as a complement to sell their devices and infrastructure atoms. The big question for any strategist now is always, where is value shifting next in the network of connections, and how can we position ourselves smartly in relation to that flow? It's an ongoing challenge.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Us Bookcast. We hope you found inspiration in these ideas. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Together, we're co-creating the world of tomorrow.